I'm just gonna make a video just reminding you guys what two-stepping is. Pretty sure I made a video on it in the past, or I may not have given it the name two-stepping, but this is what it does. So, following the motion of what I'm already on, let's say that something that I've made or something that I'm doing, hold on, let's fix this. Something that I've made or something that I'm doing requires this many steps of building and explanation in order to function. But because you're not willing to listen to all of this, you want me to simplify it into two steps. This is what two-stepping is. So there are a couple ways this can go. Two-stepping is pretty much taking an entire structure that has layers of building and trying to comprehend the outside layer and the inside layer and just assume measurements in between. The issue with this is even these two layers of circles have differences in shape that if life was a game of responding to things accurately, if you didn't acknowledge those differences, would create drags and discrepancies that cause collisions of logic and understanding over time. So here's what's going on. You guys want to fit all of this into two steps of saying. That means that no matter what's actually going on, so notice in this circle the difference of path here and how it matters enough that I can draw a line in it. Notice how that is not present in this circle. Not acknowledging differences like this lacks variation, and without this continued development of variation, there is no ability to build or create higher systems, including our financial systems of stability, like our personal financial stability, but whatever. So the issue is, you know that both of these things are a circle on the inside, a circle on the outside, with some circles in between. This is all you're describing. But in real life, these little differences actually add up and matter. Therefore, constantly trying to simplify things to a two-step statement is causing a loss of measurement and a loss of your ability to actually develop full structures that are built by many layers of effort and concept. Because you keep trying to describe everything in two steps, you're pretty much only making two-step concepts at any time. And because most structures need lots of layers of structure, lots of layers of integrity, this attempt to constantly keep things at two steps is creating a loss that is so hard to describe because you need to be willing to observe these steps in order to understand it. And so here's what's happening here. Because the people who are two-stepping are unable to comprehend the rest of this, if you tried to describe it to them, they wouldn't understand it. And because they don't understand it, and they assume via some Dunning-Kruger effect that everything is just two steps, they'll claim that you're wrong and don't make sense, even though you know you're right. Because they don't know you're right, they assume that you not making sense means that you're wrong. Two-step statements take away internal variation of integral structure, preventing the ability to be different, preventing the ability to add levels of change that give us our own personality, that give us our own room to separate ourselves. If you keep things at only two circles, at only two layers, then we can all only ever describe ourselves at only two layers. So that means that pretty much keeping things at a two-layer statement prevents ourselves from being different or separate concepts until we end up all being the same little thing, two layers. Adding these rooms of extra layers allows for us to variate enough that not only are we separate beings, but our personalities have the space and room for variation that we can actually notice this separation in greater ways than just physical. Removing the extra steps, removing all of that internal building, completely devastates any ability to create a functional full structure And so this attempt to constantly simplify everything, this attempt to constantly make everything simpler than it is removing articulate structure. And with the loss of articulate structure, it's like building the outside of a little model scale building, but because the inside has nothing in it, if I put it on one of those earthquake shaking machines, it's just gonna fall apart. And that's what these two-step statements, these two-steppers are doing. They are not acknowledging all of this, and if you try to tell them, because they don't understand it, they assume you're wrong. It is a looping Dunning-Kruger, but this video comprehends the problem and solves it. So, pretty much, if I tell you that I'm doing all of this, and you go, that's all this is, I can tell that you don't pay attention to these internal forms of structure, and I can already notice, or I can already mark you down as somebody who unfortunately is easier to manipulate because they're fooled by their own naivety, by their own ignorance. And I'm only manipulating you for my own safety, because if you are only two-stepping, you cannot be in control of anything. If you're only two-stepping, you cannot have power, you cannot have influence. That is dangerous. So I have to. So yeah, stop two-stepping and actually pay attention.